Hi, this is Lucy McCall of Ala Mesa Miracles, as above, so below, and it's for the week of September 20th through the 27th, 2024. Also, I'd like to say on YouTube, please like and subscribe. That helps me and all people like that. You can do that for everyone, and they'd all be happier. And also, I do readings and I do herbs. So just get a hold of me on Facebook, and it's Lucy McCall on Facebook in Taos. And there is a Lou McCall, but it's not Lou McCall. She's in Cuesta. So let's see. Um, yeah, I didn't get to do it last week. I did it on the radio, and you can always tune into the radio too. 93.5 FM, Taos, New Mexico. It's called K-Nice Radio. And it's 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time every Friday. And very rarely that I miss that. So what I'd like to say is, of course, we had this outrageous eclipse. And that eclipse, which was Tuesday, I think, sometime in the morning, wasn't it Tuesday? I should just know that offhand. It was actually in the evening, 8:34 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, was really a profound eclipse, one of the most amazing ones I'd ever seen. And when I kept looking at it or thinking about it, often my thoughts went into like the angelic choir. Like I could just hear this loud angelic voices singing, oh, like an amazing either a science fiction or a religious film or something. They just had this, like, this is a dramatic moment of change kind of singing you might see on a movie, and or even actually hear angelic voices sometimes. But thing is that what it was is it kind of reminded me of the Hand of Brigid. There was a trine between Pluto and Uranus, and in the midpoint of that was the Moon Neptune conjunction, and down below was the Sun, and that was the eclipse, with the South Node on the Sun and the North Node on the or near the Sun. No, North Node. Wait, South Node near the Sun and North Node near the Moon. And it was just that along with a sextile on both sides. So it kind of looked like a yod, but instead of a sextile across, it was a trine. But then there were two sextiles in the middle of that. So it was with all the outer planets involved, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, it was just dramatically spiritual. And then the moon with Neptune bringing it into the world, and the sun, in the eclipse itself, just bringing it in. So it just felt like, one friend of mine said, it sounds biblical. And I would say it sounds like biblical along with all kinds of other prophecy type ideas. It was really strong, and it hasn't been, for most of people I know and myself, a pretty mellow week. Not for everyone in the world, of course, but right where I am, it was been pretty mellow. So anyhow, that was a pretty profound thing. And now we're going to go into the equinox. So the equinox is at, where are you, equinox? 6:44 a.m. Sunday, September 22nd. So in the morning, and that's Mountain Standard Time, 6:44. As we're rising, we will be having this event where the sun goes into Libra, one of the major cardinal points, and it is a point of balance. And that's what everyone says about the fall equinox and the spring equinox. It's a point of balance. So that's when we're going into that, and it's like when we're really starting to harvest everything in the farm world and the herb world. We've got to get it in. Things are beginning to turn to seed, so we got to catch the seed when it can fall into your hand, mind you, so it's good and mature. And so here we are with all that. It's a big week that way with the equinox coming. There's a lot of aspects to Mercury and Venus. Venus is going into Scorpio, but before it does that, it's squaring Pluto, because how Pluto went back to Capricorn at 29 degrees. And this is the last time it'll be like that, because when November comes, November 12th, I think, Pluto will go into Aquarius, and these aspects we're having now will not be that way anymore for 250 years. So it's a big change. And so we have a Venus square Pluto, and then Venus going into Scorpio. So it's a very intense time for relationships. It can be people can be kind of disagreeing, and the only thing you can do with it is agree to disagree, or you're going to have a fight. So, unless you want to fight, I don't know. I'm Mars ruled, but I don't like fights that much either. So anyway, then we have a Venus in conjunct Uranus, and also a Venus in conjunct Neptune, which is part of another yod that we're having, and still part of that interesting kind of configuration we had with the eclipse. We have, with that, it brings about a real spiritual relationship to Venus, so that people have very grand and gorgeous ideas about love and relationship and what they're doing. But also, and maybe even more so, it is a very poetic week. It's a very good week for making music and making poetry and making art and anything that kind of creative. It's a wonderful time for that. As well with the Mercury aspects, which are Mercury in conjunct Chiron and Mercury trine Uranus. Another great week for great ideas, just wonderful ideas. We're also having Sun opposed Neptune, which is really kind of delusional, where we don't really quite know what's real anymore, and it's something we can ride. I mean, it can be fun. You can ride the literally Pegasus. Neptune is at Pegasus, horse of illusion, and just ride away into the astral planes or something. But so it means like don't make any real solid decisions, particularly because you might be tripping. So there we have it. It is a magical week for the most part. It's just plain magical. And so that's really what I have to say about the main astrology. If you want details, listen to the radio today, 93.5 FM KNCE, Taos, New Mexico. So the plants, I'm just right over here. I have some potted plants that I'm going to have to bring in soon, because they're tropical or close to it, more temperate than the mountains for sure. But like right here, I have 2 amaranths, a bunch, and underneath there's the little Hopi red dye amaranth. But that just sort of came up. I didn't get around to planting amaranth this year, but there it is. And it's sitting there in the bucket of ginger and turmeric that I have coming up in there. And it's probably about time for me to dig up that ginger and turmeric and make something out of it. Maybe like a fire cider is good, or some kind of digestive medicine, or just chop it and dry it and save it for a chai or something. And of course those are digestive plants. They're very close to each other. You can hardly see them really, but they're in there. And the amaranth has taken precedence. So there's one there. And then next to it, we've got this one I've been growing for years. It's the Hoshi Wu, or the Fochi Chang. And I've had that for so long. You might see it mostly as Hoshi Wu. And it's like an adaptogen, and it strengthens the whole body. And what I need to do is pull it out before I bring it in, and take those roots and chop them up and use them for like a tea or something. I don't grow enough to sell or anything. I just kind of use it as my own tea. It goes great with cocoa or any of those kind of things people like to mix mushrooms and adaptogens with these days. But anyway, if I dig it up, there'll probably be a couple of roots that I can just go ahead and use, and then there'll be one root that I save to grow or give a couple away or something. But it grows just fine inside. If it was just a little bit warmer, like maybe Albuquerque, you could probably grow it outside. An herbalist told me she was growing the Hoshi Wu outside in Santa Fe. That much difference. And then over here we have rose geranium, which is also called a citronella plant, but to me it really does smell more like rose geranium. And that plant is so wonderful, like to take a leaf and put it in a soap you might be making, or make a nice lotion that has a lovely smell to it, or even a bug repellent type thing. And I just love it. It's really pretty. It has these little pink flowers when it does do that. Um, and it's one of those things you can take a cutting and just put it in water and it'll root, and you can have a big rose geranium in your house. And then over here we have in the back, that's my ashwagandha, and it's about ready for me to dig it up. It takes 2 years to get to that point in this climate. It loves this climate because it loves an arid climate. Even though it's been rainy this year, it's not too rainy for ashwagandha. And I usually wait until the flowers come and the seed comes, so I'm probably going to bring it in before it gets to that. And then so I can save some seed, because I've been growing my own ashwagandha from my own seed for a while now. And I just dig that up and take the root. There's some nice big roots under there, and it has that real ginseng type scent. And it actually has similar abilities like the ginseng, another adaptogen, and balances blood pressure and blood sugar, and just gives a lot of strength to people. And it's become very popular. You hear ashwagandha a lot these days. So those are the main things I wanted to talk about, though there is in this little scrabbly pile my invasive toadflax. You can sort of see that yellow flower there. It often has much more of a flower head than that. It's just around, and it will, if I don't watch it, it will drop seed. The National Forest Service around here considers it invasive, and I know you go up in the mountains and you will see big plots of toadflax just everywhere. But it'd be better to bring in a herd of goats than to poison it like they want to do. You don't want to do weed poison. And for one thing, most of the weed poisons, one of the main things they're going to do is hurt our liver eventually, and everything else's liver, all the animals of all kinds. So, but this is a liver detox. This is what this plant is. So I put it in liver medicine with milk thistle and turmeric and some berberis root, and it helps people's livers very nicely. But I also want you to know and understand that what's interesting to me, the ones that are around here, I'm trying to remember all the ones the Forest Service called invasive, well, thistles, toadflax, they say the, I forgot, it's not an indigo, but it's, woad. They're invasive and they take over, but they're all for the liver. So take that into consideration about how we shouldn't poison these plants. But, I've come to a place when I first got here, the burdock was taking over. But because I use the burdock, it hasn't taken over. I mean, if no one lived here for a while, it would probably come back in full force, but no, it doesn't, because I use it. And that's really what medicines are about. A lot of people here need liver help. In fact, everyone on the planet does, because of all the environmental problems. But here it is, the liver detox toadflax. And it also is sort of a mystical thing. I've heard one of the reasons it's called toadflax in Europe anyway, and it came from Europe, by the way. It is because a lot of toads will hang out around it. And because a lot of toads will hang out around it, they called it a witch's plant. And then it represented wherever a witch will grow, the toadflax will grow. Well, that must mean northern New Mexico is just filled with those kind of people, because it's everywhere. And but really, you know what? I've never seen a toad in my toadflax, but I think it's just where I live. I hardly ever see toads where I live. There's frogs. It's more of a damp place. So thank you, and you all have a good week.